Welcome to the Funny Books and Firewater podcast. Each week these idiots pair cocktails with comic books. You can find the cocktails, drinking game rules, and playlists on the blog at funnybooksandfirewater.com. While at funnybooksandfirewater.com, you can also find a drinking game rule to play while you listen to each episode. You can follow us at Firewatercast on Twitter, and Funny Books and Firewater on Facebook and Instagram. This is episode 163. My favorite theme is monsters. Part of our Written by Women month.
I'm not that worried about it. My interview was today, so I get to be kind of brain dead the next day. So I'm not worried.
I get you, but it's like, it's late in Connecticut. We're covering a fair amount of time zones on this episode.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
I feel a little shitty about that. You know what I mean? So
it's all Jason's fault, though.
This is very true. Yeah,
it is. Actually, that makes me feel a little bit better about life. Really, the fact that it's not completely my fault.
Well, I also feel like that's kind of our thing, right? We just always blame Jason for everything.
It's been a thing for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. See, he knows.
Yeah.
I've accepted it.
Here's the thing about Jason, though, is I used to, and Todd can attest to this, I used to have, like, great ex-girlfriend stories and think, like, I had all the best great ex-girlfriend stories. And Jason has, like, just sort of thrown that out the window, you know what I mean? It's not a thing to be proud of, and I'm sure he's not, but
yeah.
I forever lose, you know what I mean? It's just like,
it does make me happy that I seem to be the sanest of everyone's ex-girlfriend. Which I guess is a good thing.
I mean, as we've discussed, I don't know if we've discussed it on the air. We've discussed it off the air. I mean, really, we broke up because we were dumb young people. You know what I mean? You were like 19 or whatever. So it's like, okay. So, like, you're entitled to be an a-hole when you're younger. I think everyone is to a certain extent. I'm sure I was. I'm still an a-hole. You know what I mean? So
we're still figuring out how to be people.
That's true.
When do we figure that out, Todd?
We're still figuring out. It's a journey and a process.
Yeah,
it's keeping in theme with the
zen.
book too.
Yes,
it is.
God.
Okay, yes. Well, welcome to episode 163 of the Funny Books and Firewater podcast. We are finishing up our month of Written by Women books with Emile Ferris's My Favorite Thing is Monsters. Quite a tome, and it's only part one of her book. Yeah. They split it into two and published it because they thought that would be easier to sell. I will be honest with you, I didn't finish this fucker, and I tried really hard. I carried this big, heavy book, which is bigger than any textbooks I currently have, around with me for weeks trying to finish this thing, and I feel like I barely made a dent. So I'm not going to, I'm going to play more host than critic on this episode. I'm just being upfront and honest that I didn't finish this fucker. Adam did finish it, but he didn't make it on the show. He got extended at work, so he sent me his notes, so I'll sort of steal his ideas and claim them as my own, as any good person would. But we do have a full group with us, and we're covering multiple, if I left it in, multiple time zones. Since this is women writers, we'll go ladies first and the furthest time zone out. We have Lena joining us. Hi, Lena.
Hi. I guess I have to say who I am. I am Elena. I live and work in the Connecticut, New York area. And I just left Denver, and I'm very sad about it. So yeah,
you were so excited to leave Denver too.
I'm still happy to be out east. I mean, I'm sure Jason could tell you otherwise because I complain to him all the time. But
yeah,
I'm happy to be out of the mountains and back on the beach. So yeah.
Well, and beach weather is coming up. It's still cold in California, at least by California standards.
It was 80. It was 82 here today.
Holy crap! It was 45 here in Salt Lake.
It's snowing in Denver right now.
So those are those moments you're really happy to not be in Denver anymore.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, he's not in Denver anymore. I don't know if he's ever been to Denver outside of visiting Lena. We have the Monster Masher himself, Mr. Jason.
I actually have been to Denver a couple times.
Okay.
Yeah, and not to visit me.
No, let's skip over that part. Anyway,
sorry to bring up the sore subject.
It's fine. She wouldn't have gone skiing with me anyway.
Okay.
So I'm Jason, writer in Los Angeles, temporarily working in the game capture department for a trailer house. And here's your weekly WGA update. So the Verve agency, despite not being one of the big four, is a pretty well-known and respected agency. It actually just signed the WGA's new code of conduct after about a week of negotiating some fine language, making it actually the 70th agency to do so. And so while Verve is not a member of the ATA or the Association of Talent Agencies, and only one other agency that has agreed to the new code is, this agreement should start to show some cracks in the resolve of the other agencies as the weeks move on. So fingers crossed that it is one of many to sign.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Either that or they're just going to have a shit ton of writers on their bill.
Which is very possible.
Yeah. But, which may be what they're going for. Who knows?
Yep.
Cool. And then I am required by law to follow Jason up with Todd. Hey, Todd.
I'm glad you understand the finer points of the law. So
there's an attorney after all.
So yeah, hi, I'm Todd. I'm out here in Salt Lake, Utah, reading a lot of stuff. So if you see me, say hi. And still, I guess I've got a 6-month-old kid, and I'm an old man to begin with, so that's new.
Or is it old?
You're old to Utah standards. In California, you're pretty average. Like you're pretty average age for having your first kid in Utah or in California. So like I would just say that you're just geographically challenged in that respect.
No, I agree with you, but my beard's already mostly gray before I had her. Everyone's like, "Oh, I see your kid turns your beard gray." And I'm like, "No, it was gray to begin with." Apparently, so. So now I've got this, and I will say I refer to her as Little Lebowski because
nice,
right? So if she's clean and well fed, she is just the chillest little motherfucker around, and I love that little kid. She's just like, yeah, whatever. Do your thing. And it's awesome. I mean, tomorrow it might change, but so far she's just like a little version of the dude. She just doesn't give a crap.
Nice. We should help her cosplay. Get her bathrobe and, put some milk in a glass and she can just kind of walk around.
Yeah. I mean, the milk thing won't be hard at all, but yeah, as you're watching it, you can dress her up in anything. You can poke her. I mean, really, I'm like, people's like, oh, is she really that chill? I'm like, I pinch her cheek, shake her leg, do all sorts of weird stuff, and she just looks at me and she's like, "What?" And I'm like, "See, there you go."
If anyone can torture, she really is super chill. But if anybody can torture somebody, it would be Todd.
Right, and people meet her. It's like, "Oh, you're just saying this," and I'm like, "Then come meet her." And they're like, "Oh, wow," and I'm like, "Yeah." So that's what it is. She'll make up for it later, I'm sure.
Either that or she'll end up having like some super stressful job. She'll be like a SWAT team expert or something like that and just be able to handle incredibly stressful situations.
Yeah, I mean, my training will be good for something, right?
Exactly right. Okay. Cool. And hey, I'm Brian. I'm a sound designer based in Southern California, and I will be heading to Utah in a couple of weeks. So we'll do a few semi-live episodes, which will be fun. Without Mr. Jason and Lena, because they'll be in other states. Wah, wah.
Unless they want to come out.
I know. There's always that option.
I mean, I'll come back out for the next FanX, but I'm not just going to randomly pop into Salt Lake.
Okay, so crazy thing, they emailed me. I might have to cut this out, but they emailed me asking me if I was going to be at the next one because they wanted to announce me early. And I was like, when did I become enough of a name that I'm one of the early announcements of people who are going to be there? Which that blew my fucking mind. Yeah, that was a little weird. I was like, yeah, I'll be there. So
hey, you should ask them if they want us to do a live podcast and all of us will just come out into the room.
I'm a little afraid of how many people will turn up or not. Like that's the thing that scares me.
The thing is, it can be you'd expect absolutely no one, and it'll be the greatest thing ever.
If 3 people show up, it would be great.
Yes,
that's true. That'd be. I don't know.
It would be odd, but then you can say, and we have done a show live at FanX. I'm like, why not? It doesn't mean anyone was there.
It's a valid point. Just because like, hey, look at this wild crowd.
That's right. We have a laugh track. We just do a laugh track. It'll be great.
Dude, I can edit the shit out of that. Like I have the technology. I can make it sound like we were like in a stadium. It would be great.
We can even go to a corner in the green room or somewhere else. Who cares? Just say, and live
That's
from
true.
FanX. Why not?
That's tempting. I might email them.
See, you're
just for
really
fun.
thinking about it, aren't you?
I'm thinking about it, but my better judgment will come into play at some point in time, I'm sure. Yeah.
See,
anyway.
we'd even go like Big Bang
if you would
Theory, get the
show up-
iPads. No, we'll do like the
Yeah,
Big Bang
that's
Theory
true.
with iPads and the T-shirt, and the others can remote in.
No, I think we should just get them all to show the fuck up. I think this is the way that we get Jason to finally come to Utah. I think that's how we do it. Lena, I think, will come. You know what I mean? And hang out. Yeah.
Would FanX pay for my ticket?
No.
No,
First off, Jason, a ticket from California to Salt Lake is like
Is
nothing.
nothing.
It's
really
still
is.
something. It's still something.
Dude, if I can afford the
it's too-
ticket, you can afford the ticket.
You and I have different costs of living at the moment.
Okay, but not when I was living in Denver. I still pay for that ticket, bitch.
Yeah, but again, still different cost of living.
Okay, whatever. I'm
yeah,
not gonna
that's true.
I always said if I can make it financially viable, I will do it.
Okay.
That's fair.
Well, you could always road trip, and then you don't even have to pay for a ticket.
Hey,
That's possible. Then I just have to
Okay.
make sure I can take the days off.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, if I can take the days off, you can take the days off.
Not always.
Sorry, I had to pull that one for just a second. Just for fun. Anyway, William, if you'll be at FanX, we'll do a live show just for William.
We'll figure it
So
out.
let us know, William. Anyway, where the fuck were we?
Hi, Brian.
Hey, Todd.
Yeah,
What's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing well.
You recommended this book, right?
Yes.
And one
Okay,
of my friends actually gave this to me as a Christmas present.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, this is Amber, who we actually said hi to a previous episode.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Amber
Yeah.
and her homies. She
Yeah.
has a bunch of friends who are in Chicago area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They listen to the show. Hi, guys. How are you? I'm waving at you, but this is radio, so you can't see. And I've had a fair amount of caffeine today, but no alcohol yet. So I'm just this naturally weird. Enjoy. So what is does anybody want to give us a general intro as to what this book is? I mean, I could do it, but I haven't made as much of a dent in it as other people have.
I'll give it a go.
Okay.
So
the non-spoilery general sales pitch.
So this is written and drawn by one writer, Emil Ferris. And it is a journal / casebook of a young girl trying to find her place in the world and figure out life and mysteries around her. How's that not?
And she's a werewolf.
She
Yeah.
sees herself as a monster.
As a werewolf.
And
That's
as
true.
a
Yeah,
werewolf.
She sees herself as a monster, as a werewolf.
Yes.
And she's obsessed with monsters and other things that way.
Right.
Yes. Also, did anybody else look up the Wikipedia on this book? Because I might have surprises for you if you haven't done so.
No.
I did.
You did?
Go
Okay,
ahead.
so you
Yeah.
know some of the interesting information I did. Oh, no, we'll save it for after.
About the author, you mean?
Yes, about the author.
Yes,
I thought that
okay,
was
yeah.
fascinating.
Yes, agreed.
But we will save that for after we get into spoiler territories. So, Todd, what is the myification of this book?
It is, damn, that's a lot of ballpoint pen work.
Yeah. I knew you'd have to mention a ballpoint pen in there somewhere. Like, that really is.
It truly is incredible,
I had
though.
this
I mean,
book-
it's a horror mystery coming of age thing going on here.
The inside blurb actually says it's a murder mystery, a family drama, a sweeping historical epic, a psychological thriller about monsters real and imagined within and without.
Well, that's why somebody got paid to write that kind of thing. But we don't get paid, so we get to just goof off. And,
That's right.
Read
Ramble.
comic books.
But it is,
ramble.
it's an oversized book. It's $40, which is actually a bit to bite off. So thanks, people, for buying it.
Yes, and it's. I mean, it's what I've read so far. I've really enjoyed, but it is an undertaking. It
It's
is.
also it's on Kindle for
Oh, okay.
less than $10, which is how I read it.
Oh,
Nice.
Someone's smarter than I am.
Well, Todd, you and I have. Well, I'm so running out of space on my shelves. I'm gonna have to start rethinking my life. Well, Jeez, I'm rambling today. I apologize. So let's jump into votes as to whether or not we believe it is worth you, our dear listeners, hard-earned time, money, and effort to read this book. Adam's vote is a yes, but he has some things to know before we read, but we'll get to those later. So, Mr. Jason, what is your vote?
It's definitely a yes.
Elena?
I'm on the fence. It's kind of a maybe for me.
Okay. Is it depending on the reader, or is it just you're not completely sold on it one way or the other?
I'm just, I don't know. I'm not, there are parts of it that I liked and parts of it that I didn't. And so I'm a maybe.
Okay. Cool. Mr. Todd?
Yes.
Okay. And I haven't read enough that I feel like it's fair to say yes or no definitively, but what I have read, I've enjoyed. So we'll say it that way. So, like, based on what I've read, I would say yes. But to be fair, I haven't read it. So then let's jump into drinking game rules for your reading edification and drunkenness. Elena, what is your drinking game rule for this week?
So I saw yours. We have the same one.
Oh, really?
So I said state of the art. When you see the artist depict a real art piece, take a drink.
Okay.
Nice.
I'm going to do one just in honor of our good friend Christopher, who every time he gets a new iPhone, he mentions how much it weighs so that when you fall asleep looking at your iPhone in bed, it falls on your face and hurts like how much weight it is. So every time you marvel at the weight of this tome, take a drink. We'll call that the Christopher rule, just in honor of our dear friend who just got engaged. Congratulations, Chris.
Congratulations to him.
Hey, way to go, Chris.
Oh, yes, because everybody on this podcast has met and hung out with Chris.
Yes.
I forgot about that. So anyway, so congratulations, Christopher and Andrew.
Yeah.
And then let's see, Jason.
My drinking game rule is called Love Machine. Anytime Deez has sex, take a drink.
Oh, God.
Awesome. Todd, do you have another one, or you want to just reiterate the other one you had? Okay.
My drinking game rule is the pulp graphic covers. So every time you go to a new chapter or anything and you see those new pulp horror covers, go ahead and take a drink.
Well, so let's put together a list of songs to listen to while we're reading and drinking along with this epic tale.
Adam have a thing?
He did.
He did have a drinking game rule. That's right. He said, "The world is my canvas. Every time someone talks about art." That was his, which that's
a cruel one.
That is a very evil and mean one. But that's Adam for you. Enjoy.
Yep.
So awesome. So let's jump into playlists now. Some songs to listen to while you read this book. Mr. Jason, what is your song?
Mine is a little on the nose, but it's called Monster Mash by Bobby Pickett.
Nice. Elena.
Bad Moon Rising from Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Nice. Adam said Vincent by Don McLean. Mr. Todd.
Mine is Spider by Oingo Boingo.
Okay, and mine was going to be basically anything Rob Zombie ever put out, but I think I'm going to specifically stick with Dragula. Just, but pretty much any Rob Zombie record pretty much fits the bill on this book. So we have rules, we have votes, we have a playlist, but what we need now is the actual cocktails to drink along with this. Mr. Jason, what's your cocktail?
Mine is called Death by Chocolate. It is 1 ounce dark creme de cacao liqueur. The site in particular recommended Gabriel Boudoir. 1 ounce Bailey's original Irish cream liqueur, yes. 1 ounce Kettle One vodka or any vodka of your choice. And then 3 scoops of chocolate ice cream. If you've had a rough week, go for the good stuff. Blend all the ingredients with 2 12-ounce scoops of crushed ice. Pour into a hurricane glass. Garnish with a crumbled chocolate bar of your choosing. And then drink to enjoy.
In Utah, that's pronounced hurricane. Anyway, Mr. Todd, what is your cocktail? You're the only person appreciating that joke here, by the way, Todd.
It is fun. It's true. So it is funny. Thank you for making me laugh.
There you go. Enjoy.
Mine's the cardamom blush cocktail, and it's in honor of the person upstairs that died that she's trying to figure out why she died. It has 1.5 ounces of gin, 1 ounce of fresh cream lemon juice, squeezed lemon juice, 3/4 of an ounce of a cardamom infused Lillet rose, 1 ounce simple syrup, 2 dashes of Peychaud's bitters, and 2 dashes of rose water. So what you're going to do is combine all the ingredients in a shaker and shake the shit out of it for about 10 seconds. Then double strain it through a fine mesh strainer into a chilled coupe glass and add a lemon wedge for garnish.
Awesome. Lena, what is your cocktail?
Called Monster Meister.
Nice.
I was just looking at that. What website you got that off of?
I don't know what this is. Cook 1, 2, 3.
Oh, no, this is a different one then.
Okay, yeah, maybe. So it's 2 ounces of Jägermeister and 4 ounces of Monster Energy drink. Whatever, which one you want. And in a cocktail shaker with ice, combine the Jägermeister and Monster Energy drink. It says shake well, but I feel like it might explode all over you. Strain into a highball glass and enjoy.
I'm not
so right up your alley, Brian.
It is, actually. But the funny thing is I found a website that is just, it's like a blog post that is all just different cocktails with Monster Energy drinks in them, which right saw the Monster Meister in there. But so I'm going to use the Picardoo. I don't know why, I just like it, but it is a half an ounce of vodka and a half ounce of Monster Energy drink. Nice and sweet and simple, and it's a vodka Red Bull, but with Monster Energy drink. But enjoy that way. And Mr. Adams was called Starry Night. I'm sure referencing some of the classic art that is in here. Mm-hmm. It is 1.5 ounces of chocolate vodka, 1.5 ounces of vanilla vodka, 1 ounce of Bailey's, 1 ounce of Kahlua, a splash of cream. Add all the ingredients into an ice-filled shaker, shake the shit out of it, and strain into a martini glass. Thank you, Adam, for adding in the shake the shit out of it. I appreciate it. Yeah. Cool. I got everybody, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Any final warnings before we go into reading this?
Yes.
Adam has one as well, but go ahead, Mr. Jason.
I was going to say there are depictions of naked women, young girls in prostitution, and unfortunately rape, although the rape is thankfully not actually illustrated, but it does deal with some very mature themes.
Yes. Okay. Adam says, things to know before you read. This isn't a light book. It's very long. You'll need a few days to really cover the whole thing and finish it. I had to put it down and pick it back up at least 3 times to finish it. And I didn't like it for the first 150 pages, but once I got into it, it was mesmerizing. Uh-huh. So that was Adam's 4 warnings. Anybody else have anything to add to that?
I second that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it took me halfway through the book to get into it.
See, I kind of liked it from the beginning, but I also love Rob Zombie, so maybe it's just I like the monster aspect of it and that kind of stuff. So maybe it's just up my alley a little bit more. Who knows? But cool. Anything else?
I think we're good.
Yeah.
Cool. Then we are going to take a wee little break. If you would like to take a time to read this book, go ahead and pause this podcast, and we'll see you in about a week or 2.
It's just shy of 400 pages, just so you know.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes. The full thing is 700 pages, and they cut it into 2, just so you're aware. So if you want to read the entire thing, and because I was surprised, because this came out in 2018, right? This is relatively recent.
It's 2017. Yep.
But part 2 came out in 2018, so part 2 just barely came out as well.
Did it?
I thought it wasn't out yet.
It's not out yet.
I thought I saw it on Amazon. Oh, is it? So it's not out yet? Okay, I thought I saw it on Amazon, but maybe I was making
It's unavailable on Amazon, but there was a page there, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it was originally supposed to come out, and then it got pushed. So
Yep.
Okay. She also had some issues finding publishers and things like that. But anyway, I mean, I can see where it's hard to justify this giant tome of a book and be like, hey, publish this. And people go, who the fuck are you?
what is this? Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. But like we said, we all voted for it, but it is an undertaking as far as comics go. So we will leave you to it. If you want to just have us spoil the shit out of it, which might be the easier way of going, just stick around, and we will see you on the flip side.
While we take a break, here is a message from one of our fellow Hello Sweetie Network podcasts.
Hi, everybody. This is Matt.
And I'm Trevor. We're the co-hosts of the Nighthawks podcast, a movie podcast for people who like to stay up late.
We've just joined the Hello Sweetie Podcast Network, expanding our podcast empire and bringing the world to its knees.
Take a seat in the Nighthawks diner with us. We're going to talk to you about movies.
We've got new movies, old movies, movies we love, movies nobody loves.
You can find us on Stitcher, iTunes, and at nighthawkspodcast.com.
Hey, that was pretty good. Do you think they'll listen?
The good ones always do.
Who wants to do the summary?
Not it.
Not me.
I actually was sort of prepared for this.
Oh, nice.
I copied and pasted an entry from a website that actually did summarize the entire thing. It is 3 full pages of a summary.
Wow. So you're going to summarize a summary, or are you going to go through the whole thing?
That's the thing. I don't know how to adequately summarize this whole thing because there are so many things that happen.
Yes.
Is it worth just foregoing the summary and just starting the discussion? Is there just too much to summarize that you can't just summarize it?
I can summarize it. It's going to take me 10 minutes to read the summary.
Yeah, that's what I'm concerned about.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know.
Come on, DJT. Just don't read it at all.
Hey, my opinion is I think we just dive into the conversation and we see where it goes.
Okay.
Let's do
If
that.
we need to give any backstory, we can. And
Backstory for whatever you
okay.
thought.
I'm fine with that. Okay.
Yeah, let's try that because frankly, this is just too much of a book to try to summarize. Like,
yes, agreed.
It's sort of like, hey, summarize the Bible. Well, there's some people and they're assholes, and then God does some shit, and then there's a nice guy who shows up, and then God does some shit, and then the Christians do some shit. And in the end, there's the Bible for you. Left out a few things here and there. Anyway, that lets you know how much of Sunday school I paid attention to. So
You're a bad Mormon.
Oh, so bad. I met another fellow recovering Mormon at a bar last night, which was pretty funny.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Also, like, we're sitting there talking, and someone made a joke about me being Mormon. She goes, "You're raised Mormon too?" And I was like, "Yep." So I found another one of the tribe of the fallen Mormons. So it's always fun. I seem to bump into them a lot, actually. It's a thing. Well, especially in California. So anyway, go former Mormons. Woohoo! Cool. Well, Lena, you had some issues with it. So let's start out with there. What did you like? What did you didn't like? What did you not like? Besides my English and grasp thereof. So yeah, what are your thoughts?
It was, once you got into knowing all the characters, it was just hard to follow at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
It's super dense.
Yeah.
Like the first few pages where she was talking about, I don't know, villagers coming after her. I had to reread it a couple of times because I was like, I have no idea what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me a while to realize that the way that she depicts herself is how she sees herself, but not how she actually looks. I mean, she looks like Michael J. Fox from Teen Wolf. So, but it wasn't until, and then like the whole piece of the neighbor dying and all the different neighbors, and I was getting confused with everyone's names. And so it was something I started and then put down and then came back to and then had to put down again. And it was a lot of like spaces in between the actual finishing of everything, because it wasn't until you hit the midpoint when she's listening to the tapes of the neighbor that died. Anka, I think was her name.
Yeah.
That was when I really started to get into it, because I am like a World War II, like Nazi Germany, like crazy person that I just love stuff around that time and everything. And so I got really into that, and then all of a sudden it just stopped. And then it got all kinds of goofy again. And I was just like, I don't know what the hell is going on here. And I'm the type that I can read a book, like a 300-page book, in like a couple of hours. And the fact that it took me like 4 days to get through this was hard. It was really hard to get through. It was great. I think it's wonderful. It's just, it took a lot for me to get through this book.
Yeah, it's quite a tome, and like I think part of where I'm having issues, like, because I still intend on finishing reading this book, but like it's not laid out in a traditional comic sense, so it's not it doesn't flow visually as far as words go like a typical book does. So I found myself reading something and then reading something else, like kind of the way you sometimes do when you first start reading comics and go, oh wait, I wasn't supposed to read that in that order, and going back and rereading it a little bit and doing some stuff that way. That ended up getting me a few times that way. But yeah, one thing I just wanted to point out, which I thought was really interesting, and Jason, you can chime in on this as well. from my brief research on Wikipedia, which frankly I was looking for a summary on Wikipedia to see if there was one, which there isn't. The author, Ferris, she ended up getting West Nile virus in 2002 at the age of 40, and she was paralyzed from the waist down and her right hand, and it was preventing her from doing her freelance drawing work. So what she basically did is she had written a screenplay for a werewolf lesbian girl becoming enfolded in the protective arms of a Frankenstein trans kid. And it was this theme of two outsiders that she wrote, and she sort of went to the School of Arts Institute of Chicago, got her MFA in creative writing, and then she taught herself to draw again by working on this. And so she would sit there, and this was part of her recovery process for trying to relearn how to write, and there was sort of like her writing and stuff like that. So this was just sort of these big creative undertakings. So like I kind of can feel why there is so much involved in it, because it was like sort of this big thing of her trying to get back on her feet and be able to work again. And so like I think there's a lot of things in there to try to challenge her and do stuff that way. But was there anything else, Jason, that you caught from that you thought was interesting?
I mean, just that alone, the fact that this is so beautiful, and we'll get into the art later on. It's so beautifully illustrated for anyone, but for the fact that she was partially paralyzed and this was her recovery process, it makes it all the more astonishing and impressive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and just kind of speaking on that, Jason, it's funny because, I mean, so I don't know. I know Todd would know, and I don't know if Brian would know this. Maybe Jason doesn't, but my father is an artist, and the way that he draws is very much similar to how she draws. So the art and the book is, I love it. The art in it, I absolutely adore. It's the same type of art that I've grown up looking at when my father draws. So I think it's amazing.
Yeah, I mean it's a very just flipping through it, there are like lots. There's not really a lot of pages where you look at it and go, oh, the art on that page isn't very interesting. It's just the dialogue, the way it's written and stuff like that. I think that's where the challenging is. There's this fun notebook quality to it that I guess that comes from, I was reading a little bit somewhere where she used to draw a lot in her notebooks when she was in school, and her friends would borrow them and pass them around and stuff like that. And it was giving that general idea of and it creates this sort of cool sort of autobiographical kind of vibe of this is this notebook that she's drawn in and pass it on. And there's a lot of discussion of art. Her brother is an artist and into art and has a bunch of tattoos and stuff like that. And he's you see this sort of influence of him giving her fine art, and she's also obsessed with pop art and all that kind of stuff. And you kind of see all these little influences all over the place. Because the thing is, there's some great comic pages, there's some great covers of horror stuff that she's copied in here. But then there's also famous paintings that she's recreated with a ballpoint pen that are also equally as impressive. There's a lot of different art styles that are sort of attacked here, and she does an amazing job with all of it.
Yeah, what I really love on that is it's Surratt's, Sunday Day in the Park. So it's copying on that, and that thing is a wonderful point of pointillism, but the way she drew it is short brushstrokes. And then you see Dee's and herself, and she has gone with the pointillism of the two of them. So they are looking at it through their world, and they're going, oh, this is all pointy, and there is a moment of time where that whole thing is flipped, if you understand what that painting is. And it was just a little thing of... She absolutely knew exactly what she's doing and how she copies other famous paintings with ballpoint pens. And you're just wait, I know that piece. This is awesome. It's it isn't just much of, oh, I copied it, I kind of get the idea. It's no, actually, it's really pretty close. That's really
when
impressive.
When she drew, I forget which character was in this position, but she drew a particular character in the exact same position as my favorite painting.
Yes, Jason. Yes. Oh my God. I took a screenshot of it and I meant to text it to you because as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my God.
Because it's so distinctive, and it's Picasso's The Old Guitarist, and the body position is so particular, but she copies it so beautifully that before she even referenced it, because it was so visually perfect of that painting, it really hit me.
Yeah, Todd, what are your thoughts? We haven't heard a whole ton from you yet.
Well, what's interesting watching this, these are one of the books I'm always for this show and other things, I always kind of try to have my eyes open and something a little bit different. I thoroughly enjoy the world of superheroes with DC and Marvel, don't get me wrong, but there's much more than just that. So And this one, and I saw it's like it been best of a lot of different things coming forward. It was like, oh, let me go check that out. So I just kind of bought it and it was on a lark, and I was flipping through this, and it showed up via Amazon. Thank you, Amazon. And I'm like, this thing really is. Has such a strong voice unto itself. Oftentimes, it's like, oh, I've seen this before. And kind of like I'm familiar with the format, I'm reading of this, and this is someone that has such a strong, unique voice of going like, I've never seen a graphic novel quite like this one. And the style is such her own, and yet you can see her with copying other artists, and what she's doing here, it is super intentional on how she is doing it. Not only as, well, this is how I draw, of this is a very specific way I am choosing to draw this.
Yeah.
And that is making as much of a statement as anything, because as fun as like the pulpy horror covers are, or how she kind of draws herself as this wolf kind of thing. I see it as a cross. You said that Teen Wolf, but it's also like I was thinking like Inspector McGruff a bit.
There's a little Eddie Munster in there too.
Yeah, you've got the Eddie Munster going on, and so she is lightly referencing all these different things, and it's so fun, and you can really feel the love and the passion she has put into this. This was by no means a work for hire, or it's something I'm just doing next or pointing out, but this is incredibly passionate about it. And I was reading up a bit on her. I mean, as much as she was, West Nile virus learning how to walk and draw again, she's also a mother with kids and the midst of all of this as well. And it is simply phenomenal. And you go through this and you can try to read it in a hurry. And yeah, I can see you getting lost, and you're like, oh, the art style, it's ballpoint pen. And yet you look at this and you just want to stare at the cross-hatching. And I even get like bits of like Van Gogh here and there on how she has intentionally done the swipes and the pushes and the brush strokes. And you're just like, the amount, I look at this in awe and thinking of the amount of time, because the biggest challenge of all with ballpoint pen is you only have that one size line. It's not like they can cheat and go thicker or doing this or fill this in. I mean, everything you see, and I understand with that ballpoint pen, all of it was just a little line at a time.
Yeah.
And as I'm reading through this, I feel I force myself, I get a little bit lost in the story, because realizing how long the art took, I really want to go, it's like, if it took so long, it's on purpose. Let me try to understand what's going on here, because it is so purposeful. Yeah. And it's just really kind of a remarkable thing in this way. And so I've enjoyed the story. You've got these morally gray characters, like the brother. Is he a pimp? Is he a drug dealer? I don't know. Does it really matter? I mean, who killed Anka? I mean, everyone could have. I mean, there's other people that could have, others that haven't. I mean, I'm not quite sure. It doesn't really resolve that great.
Well, and it's also just the first half of the book too,
Right.
So it's not meant to resolve it yet.
It's not meant to resolve it, but you've got all these morally gray characters, or you've got these characters that, like Anka, put in such shitty situations, and and then you want to ask yourself, is this something, how would I have done it different? Is there something she could have done different? Or it's like, she did with the hand that was dealt, she did the best she could. And it's fun to watch. Or you've got her, and with Missy, and how Missy saw herself as a bit of a vampire as her monster, and she is as a werewolf, and then that little kiss, and then Missy bowing under pressure to break it off and try to be normal. And it is such, you have things that are trying to like express that, and then they're being like, oh, and society is going, no, you must not do that, and bowing to that pressure from others. So they're just felt to be, the characters are just so real and fleshed out. And I mean, and as much as I gushed about the art of it, the writing of it is there, and it's really cool. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, and it's really cool. It's really deep. It's as much as you want to be there, and yeah, it's kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah, it is, and I think part of the story, at least from like the way it's done, I think what you're kind of going for is that it demands it as itself, it demands to be read slowly, like, and absorbed and taken in as far as the art goes and the writing style and all that kind of stuff. It's definitely not something we can read through as fast as what we'd normally read on this show.
Right.
It's, you know what I mean? Because we'll be honest with you, half the time most of us read the day before or the day of the recording and just knock it out. Because, you know what? Guess what? They're books with pictures. It's, you know.
We do this every week. Yeah.
Yeah. So...
And we've got lives.
Yeah, it's true. Well, speak for yourself.
I mean, other things outside the podcast.
Yeah, speak for yourself. Anyway, no, I guess I do have season tickets to LAFC and all that.
Sure. I was talking more about your job and school. And
oh yeah, I mean, there's
more of your time. Yes.
Yeah, job,
there's
school,
adulting.
Yeah, LAFC games, and
Jim, you go to the gym once or twice a month.
A month, yeah, a little bit. I go to the gym a little bit. I'm doing a half marathon in a week and a half or something like that.
See, when you say that, I get tired sitting here.
So now, I actually did try to, like a lot of you guys, try to read it at a couple points this past week. And for whatever reason, I just got distracted by something else. And the first 30 pages or so were a little bit difficult for me. But then last night... after the Game of Thrones finale, I sat down in my living room and then in my bed and just took the next 3-4 hours and read through the entire thing. And I was happy that I did it that way because it after those 30 or 50 pages or so, it really hooked me in. And every time there was a big plot moment or character reveal or development, it just hit me that much harder because I had invested my time to just sit there and enjoy the experience in this confined amount of time. And that helped me at least. If anyone out there is struggling to read it and get through it, just devote some time, take a block out of your day and really sit down with it because it does deserve that kind of thoughtful attention and appreciation.
Yeah.
Going to the writing and what Emil Ferris could have done or should have done or whatever, I think that she did a phenomenal job across the board. In particular, I really appreciate how she treated rape and sex workers. The rape, as we mentioned at the head, is never visually portrayed because it's not necessary, but it also isn't used to define that character or used as a catalyst for another character's actions. It exists as part of that character's journey in a fully organic way. And with the sex workers, she treats them with respect and understanding. There's a lot of gray area associated with that profession and why different people either choose to go into it or some are unfortunately forced into it. And she does a really good job of giving that as full a picture as possible. And in particular, there's a scene in which Anka is sold to an underage prostitution ring called the Pharmacy, and this other girl has to sort of teach her how to behave with a client, but it was treated so sort of tenderly and in a very heartbreaking way. While Anka is telling Molly the myth of Medusa, and then Molly sort of turned it on its head, no pun intended, and making Medusa into this woman that men only killed because they feared her power over them. And the way that and that's just one example of the different layers and metaphors and symbolism throughout this entire book that Emil Ferris is able to weave in, and every little visual thing that she uses is informing the writing and vice versa. And it continues to do that the more and more you read it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you made me really want to sit down and finish it tonight, but I have...
I could keep pitching this book. I really did love this.
Sorry, that was my cat literally stepping on the keyboard. I did not do that on purpose.
That's great. That's great.
It could have been way more awkward, but because it could have happened when you were talking about the rape scene. But that was like the cat literally stepping on the keyboard and triggered that. So that was well, that's staying in.
Yeah, that's good.
Cool.
I'm just going to keep going.
Okay.
Do it.
Karen's insights, because she's a young child. She's in middle school, I think. And the way that she's written, it's both as a sort of beautifully innocent perspective, like a child's would be, but it's also very perceptive. And in a lot of media, sometimes it's difficult to write kids that don't feel authentic. They're either really observant, like a tiny little genius, which can sometimes feel a little forced or fake, or they're way too simple-minded and they seem too young. But Karen feels like a living, growing person who's trying to understand the world and her own identity. And it's really well done.
Little moments I love in there. It's like her mother saying, "Hey, you need to go to bed. I need to have private talk with your brother." And she's like, "Okay, Mom." And then she goes like, "I'm just going to hide behind the chair here." Or she's thinking they're talking. It's like, it's like if I pretend to draw and look serious at this, she thinks I'm not listening and she'll just tell him everything anyways. Type of thing. And it's just these wonderful little things. Is like she knows these things, and at the same time it's like I'm really interested, but if I pretend like I'm not, then they'll talk. And I'm like, and that felt really authentic and real. It's like kids are so much smarter than you give them credit for, but they're not super geniuses, but they are quite perceptive. So I really enjoyed
when
that.
she's listening. Yeah, like when she's listening to her brother talk to one of his friends, his friend mentions Oedipus, and she's writing in the notes, Eddie Piss. It's just a really, really sweet moment that still reminds you, oh, right, this is a kid. She hasn't really learned enough about the world to really fully understand what are the references the adults are making. Her relationship with her brother is also really well done, because even though Dees isn't always portrayed as the best kind of guy. He uses women indiscriminately, pretty much. But his relationship with her is really sweet and really tender and very caring. And you get a full sense of him as a person because he exhibits those different dimensions to his character. In particular, there's a scene where their mom wants Dees to punish Karen for skipping school. So he gets out a belt and he fake hits the air or something. And then Karen cries out in fake pain and that sort of stuff. And it's a really, really nice scene. It ends with Dees breaking down and admitting something terrible. But it gives you a really good sense of their relationship and how much they trust one another.
What else you got?
Part of the main push of this story is the death of the neighbor, Anka, and Karen using her detective sense to try to figure out how Anka died, because it is very mysterious at the beginning and no one really quite knows what happened, because it's just a very peculiar way for someone to commit suicide. But when Karen is listening to Anka's recorded tapes made a few years previously, you hear Anka's storyline growing up in Germany and going through concentration camps. And it's really heartbreaking, but it's also thrilling, disturbing, heartwarming. There's at one point, she has a sort of surrogate mother in this brothel that she grows up in. And it feels like a very pivotal moment in that character's journey, not because it sort of spurs her on to do something else, because Anka was already going to leave that brothel previously, but it feels like a very informative moment in her life.
And what I find it fascinating with that is, and you're looking at it through the eyes of about a 12, 13-year-old girl. So how much, it's like the sex thing it's there, but it's over her head. She doesn't quite get it.
The night machine. Yeah.
So
she calls it the night machine.
Yeah, and she doesn't quite get it, and you're watching this, and I was just thinking, like, my wife is in education. She's a elementary school educator, and how much parents are trying, yes, I'm in Utah, they're darndest to shield their kids from learning adult things. And sex, of course, is near on the top of it, and, it happens, and there's good uses of sex, and then there's when sex is used poorly. It's absolutely devastating. But you've got this kid here in the exploring, and it's interesting. They will understand about as much as they're ready for. And it's, it was just one of those things for me. You're going at it, it's like, as kids going through, some things they understand. She's walked in on her brother, it seems, a number of times while he is using women, and he's like, yeah, you don't need to tell your mom about this. And she's like, okay, I'm not quite ready to address this sort of thing, so I got it. And but it's there, and it's one of those things. Is like you can realize, like when she gets older again, she will like put 2 and 2 together. Hi, Cat.
Sorry.
So yeah.
I think that also extends to her ability to emotionally accept her friends, because she's obviously dealing with trying to emotionally accept herself, and the way that she portrays her friends, whether it's Missy, who sort of imagines herself as a vampire, or her friend Sandy, who my mind is probably a ghost, or my favorite, her friend Franklin, who's depicted as Frankenstein's monster. And one of my favorite bits of writing from this book was the way she describes him. If all the pieces fell away, I got the idea that what was inside of him was a big ball of bright light. I just thought that was a beautiful way to describe someone who's also going through their own transformative process, I guess. Yeah. And then continuing with him, we talked about it being a very well done historical book in that it deals with Nazi Germany and that sort of stuff, but it also actually takes place right when Dr. King is assassinated. And you see that from the perspective of Franklin, who's a young black kid, and how much it affects him and those around him. And also really, it does a beautiful job to actually give context to why people rioted at that time, because there was an emotional turmoil inside that they had to put outside.
Did you, Jason, pick up on the fact that she was real into the sense of smell with everything?
Oh yeah, I actually thought, there's a condition where when you see something, you smell it, or when you hear a sound, it looks like something in particular. That's the one. Yes, that it so reminded me of that, because her senses were so sort of tied to one another. Absolutely, yeah.
The fact that she could smell blue was the thing that like got me. Because then every time you saw Anka, she was always blue. So I just thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I just even flipped over in the page to one particular page, actually, when Anka's husband is in that old guitarist pose. And on the right side of the page, Karen is remarking that the apartment didn't smell like Anka's perfume anymore. And I wonder if that blue was the perfume.
That could be. The other thing I found a bit interesting as you're watching it, and it wasn't like terribly on the noses, but with King dying and all of that, is you hear about the civil rights and how the African Americans were treated so poorly, but not a lot about Hispanics and whatnot, but they were among some of those groups too. Yeah. That aren't talked about. I mean, you even take a look at Nazi Germany and it's like, oh, the Jews, what they did, but for the Nazis in concentration camps, Jews were about half of what happened. But we just don't talk about that part too much.
And it also did bring up the fact that there were German citizens who were not Nazis and who tried to do the best they could in a very difficult circumstance. It
was interesting to watch. When I was in high school, we had a German foreign exchange student. So this was back in the 90s, because I'm old. And perspectives is such an interesting thing, because like World War II came up, and he's like, oh yes, the Nazis lost World War II. And he had a fine line of going, it wasn't Germany that lost, it was the Nazis that lost. And I find that a bit of an interesting perspective, but as you look at Germany and everything that, I mean, the horrors, when everyone, how much were they complicit, how much were they not, but they're moving forward and just so separating themselves from all of that is, going about ways, how do you separate this out? And you can say, well, it wasn't Germany that did these terrible things. It was this Nazism. And how do you cut that out, separate it, and move forward and keep the good parts that is still German and say, we're not doing this Hitler thing again. Yeah,
there was even a character on the the train ride to the concentration camp who was a member of the Third Path Party. That obviously the Nazis did not want in government. And that's actually one of my favorite parts of the book. So it's everyone is crammed into this train car, and it starts snowing outside, and people are pushing and shoving just so they can drink some of it, because they're crammed in this tiny little space. And then one man whistles loudly and makes everyone take turns drinking the melted snow out of his hands. And when Anka reaches him and she looks at his hands, she sees that each time he has to reach his hands out to get more snow, the bars in the train actually cut his arms and hands. And then you also get another beautiful phrase that I wrote down, She said, I think we felt more courage after we drank the water that tasted of coal, smoke, and blood.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got nothing to go off of that.
This book just made
really
me feel
did.
things.
Yeah, no,
One of my favorite ones going through it and going on is like, and this is a little bit of a here, but it's the bad monsters want the world to look the way they want it to. They need people to be afraid. They don't live in their lair and mostly mind their own biz. I guess that's the difference. A good monster sometimes gives somebody a fright because they're weird looking and fangy. A fact that is beyond their control. But bad monsters are all about control. They want the whole world to be scared so the bad monsters can call the shots. Yeah. Lots of feels, isn't it? So Brian, lighten it up.
Lighten it up. Son of a bitch.
Make
There
a
you
cat
go.
press the button again.
Thank you, Cat.
There you go. Actually, that was, but yeah. Well, cool. I mean, that's. I have a feeling that if I don't cut you off at some point in time, this will just go on and on and on and on and on for a while.
I will keep talking about this book.
Yeah, well, good. Then let us go with let's go with some final grades as to all of that kind of fun stuff. For self-contained, Mr. Adam gives it an F. It's a very interesting story, but it needs to end with more and new questions being asked than answered. I mean, I also don't know if Adam realized that this was only half of the story, but the other half's going to come out. So, Mr. Jason, what is your self-contained?
I actually gave it an F as well because it didn't really wrap anything up, and it just presented more questions like, Victor, is he Dee's twin brother? What happened there? Which we didn't talk about at all, but yeah. So yeah, it's self-contained F. I need more.
Okay. Mr. Todd.
Yeah, it's an F. So as you're finishing it through here, you can tell very much that the publisher went, yeah, it's too big. You just need to pick a spot to stop.
Okay.
So,
and Lena.
Yeah, F. Even within the story, there's so many pieces that just kind of ended before the end that I'm hoping get finished, like Anka's story in the second part.
Okay.
So I find the challenge with this. Did anyone here read much Neil Stevenson?
No, I think it's in my Amazon cart though at the moment.
All right. So Neil, as an author, and Emil didn't do this to quite a degree, but Neil will write a 700-page book, and oftentimes it'll be 3 disparate stories going throughout, and the last 50 pages ties everything together in a whirlwind. And it's great, and the 3 independent stories really hold well on their own, and then you see how they all tie together. And this feels like a little bit like we're on page 55 before the end. So, yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense.
For writing, Mr. Adam gave it an A, brilliantly written and an entertaining and intriguing story. Mr. Todd.
No,
what is
it's
your
an
grade
A
for writing?
as well. It's an A. Yeah. There you go. A.
Miss Elena or Ms. Elena. What is the preferred term, Elena?
Ms.
Ms. Lena.
Yeah, because I'm old now. I gave it an A. The funny thing is when you read it on the Kindle, you can set it up that it will like push you through the like if you double tap on the page, the publisher has it set up so that it will just give you the frame so you're going through it the way that you should.
Panel by panel?
Yes.
As opposed to page by page.
Exactly. So that way I was able to follow everything pretty easily, but then have to go back and want to see the full page after that. So, yeah.
So that's awesome. You should check out Greg Rucka and J.H. Williams' Batman Elegy, because I think your Kindle would break with how that thing's laid out.
Well, I don't want to break it, Todd.
Okay, and Mr. Jason for writing.
Oh, it's an A. Yeah, it's an A.
Okay. For art, what is your grade, Ms. Lena?
A. I loved it. I loved everything about it. I thought from everything, just her drawing, even the quick like sketches that she did of Dee's and Karen just were amazing.
Okay. Jason.
It's an A as well. I mean, as much as I gush about the writing and the metaphors and the layers and that sort of stuff, the art is sometimes just breathtaking to behold. If you stop on any sort of page, there's something in there to just draw your eye to something beautiful.
Cool. And Mr. Todd.
Oh yeah, it's a font. Hey.
And Adam gave it a B-. I disagree with his statement here. I'm just going to say that right now. He says the art itself is fantastic, but the way it's presented in the ruler notebook is distracting and takes away from the experience. I don't believe that, but that's okay. That's Adam's opinion, and he's entitled to it.
Well, I will say it took me a minute at the beginning to get used to the line, like to the kind of notebook page look to it. But once you're in it, the lines, I totally forgot they were there.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Cool. Yeah. Then, so for total overall grade, Mr. Adam gave it an A-. He said the story gets its hooks in you and draws you from page to page, and to find out what happens in the next book. The art is absolutely astounding, but it was distracted from having the ruled book background. So he really hated that ruled book background, but that's okay. Lena, what is your grade?
I gave it an A-, and the minus is just because it doesn't resolve anything.
Okay. Mr. Todd.
Before I get to my grade, watching this, the other thing we didn't bring up that I absolutely loved is the spot in Karen's mother's eye of the green island.
Oh, yeah, that's a cool moment.
I mean, as you go through it, and it's revisited a couple of times, and as you watch this, you've got this little girl that's just staring into mom's eyes, and she has named a part of the coloring in her eye, and you're like, that is just so sweet on how she finds comfort there, or she's looking for comfort there. So and it's so beautifully done. So it's also an A- because it felt, and I want to give the A- and blame the I'm going to say publisher editor, because of how the ending is a bit jarring in that way. Yeah.
And Mr. Jason.
So to me, this is one of those books that will eventually make its way into college courses, and students and professors will dissect, because it has so many layers and parts worth analyzing. Delves into art history and appreciation, wonderful historical context, and at the same time deals with very real three-dimensional characters in a beautiful, adult, nuanced way from the perspective of a young person. It's really well done. So for me, it's an easy A with Emma Stone. Yeah.
Always with the Emma Stone.
Oh, yeah. And I will also point out on the back cover, there is a blurb from Alison Bechdel of the Bechdel-Wallace test. Yeah. So if you're a fan of hers, she's a fan of this book. So
we read Fun Home on this podcast, actually.
Yeah.
Cool.
From Bechdel, which I actually really quite liked, and I think there's an interesting comparison between the musical and the comic book, which it's just interesting in general. Cool. We came out with a 3.775, which is an A- grade, which is pretty obviously consistent since we had 3 A- and 1 A. Cool. I'm not exactly sure what we're going to be doing next week, but we are going to be doing Pride books for next month. Adam has sent us the list of what he is thinking of book-wise. Like I said, I'm not exactly sure which one we're going to read first, but the list includes a book called Moonstruck, On a Sunbeam, Life with Kevin, which is from the Kevin from the Archie comics, and then Taproot, a story about a gardener and a ghost. For my money, I would put my bet on a Sunbeam being the first book we read, because that one's available on Amazon and the rest are available on in-stock trades. So we'll probably get that one first. That's my bet. Okay. If I was to.
So, also being said with On a Sunbeam, because I have it here, is it's a much faster read than this one.
Everything is,
but it's 500. Right, On a Sunbeam is 500 pages.
Oh wow.
Oh.
Adam's not liking us. Oh well, that's okay. No, I mean, I'm actually looking for. There was a book called something about fuck. I don't remember what it was, but I really wanted to read that book, but Adam didn't pick it. But whatever. So that's that will be Pride Month next month. So we'll be reading that. Who has recommendations? They're just dying to get off their chest.
I got one.
Okay.
Last week I mentioned Killing Eve, and in passing I brought up the series Fleabag. It's apparently back with a second season.
I noticed that on Amazon the other day.
Yeah, exactly. Both seasons available on Amazon Prime. It's another series written and created by Phoebe Waller-Bridge. And joining the cast this year is also Andrew Scott, who played Moriarty on the BBC's Sherlock, and is just a wonderful person. Yeah. So there are multiple reasons to watch the show.
Oh, you've met him?
Yeah, I actually I was asked by a friend of his who was my boss at the time to drive him around to a bunch of auditions, and I remember very distinctly he gave me money for driving him around at the end of the day, but it was too much. So I was going to give him change, but I didn't have enough cash, so I promised him the next time I met him I would buy him $19 worth of beer. So I haven't yet done that, but as soon as I can, Adam, Andrew, if you are listening, I still owe you that beer.
I'm surprised you didn't introduce him as the villain of Spectre. He's in Spectre.
Is he in?
Well,
as the villain?
He's not the head villain.
I think we're thinking of two different people.
Maybe not.
Oh, is he just a villain?
He's a villain, not the top villain.
Okay. Well, he is amazing as Moriarty. I will say that.
Yes.
If I would have known that you had access to him in any way or shape or form, I would have probably tried to harass you for an autograph or something. But good thing I didn't know. Oh well. So cool. Todd, do you have any recommendations?
Not this week. Yeah.
Okay. Lena, do you have anything to recommend?
No, nothing this week.
Nothing this week. I'm trying to think. I feel like I should recommend something since I've been such.
You want to recommend your course book?
My course book that's just about it's actually lighter than this book. No, I won't recommend that. I did build this is so useless information. I'm working on my own little bat cave. I bought some extra monitors, so this is my first time recording a podcast with 4 monitors in front of me. Maybe that's why I'm so flighty. It's kind of awesome though, because I have my notes up on one screen, I have the recording on another screen. I can have text messages on the other screen, but I don't have them up. But yeah, so it's been really kind of nice. I keep justifying it, saying that I'm doing a lot more homework and sitting for my computer, but frankly, what I really need is a more comfortable chair. So I am recommending comfortable office chairs because this one from IKEA is just not comfortable.
Well, it's from IKEA, Brian.
I know. Well, here's the thing. I bought it when I wasn't really sitting at my desk for multiple hours at a time writing papers and reading all sorts of gobbledygook online for classes and stuff like that. Now I actually have to sit in front of my computer quite a bit, and my ass is sore. So, and then I don't know if you guys heard that, but my Amazon Echo just added a chair to my shopping list. Thank you, Amazon Echo. That's awkward.
That's creepy.
Yeah.
That's why I don't own one of those things.
I got it as a gift from Todd, and I actually really like it, to be honest with you. But I connected all my lights to it and all sorts of stuff because, it's just, it's kind of fun. This is horrible, but I'm just going to admit to this, and I might edit this out later. When I started dating this girl, I totally had a makeout playlist and a light scene programmed just for my own personal
amusement. Way to go, buddy!
Because I was...
Of course you did.
Yeah,
he was planning on doing more, if I remember correctly. You told me about
what else was I going to do?
You were talking about getting
strobe lighting going on.
Where it turned on at
disco ball
time or whatever. When you
that's right.
hands, you did something. You were time it perfectly and everything, like a creeper.
Dude, you need
Oh my god!
The text I got from Brian was, "Is this creepy or cool?"
And you're like, "It's fucking creepy."
No, but to make it funny, when you do that, you need to have the first song play is "It's Business Time" by Flight of the Conchords.
It's on the playlist. It's most definitely on the playlist.
So you just need to have it right there.
Yeah, you just have to embrace it. You have to lean into the curve of the funny and goofy. Right. Well, part of the thing is this will be my weekly recommendation then, in that regard. The movie Pillow Talk. It's an old movie with Doris Day and Rock Hudson. That's where I stole the idea from. Rock Hudson totally has a
that's where he stole the idea from.
Yeah, it's totally where I stole the idea from. So I just thought that was funny. I was like, okay, so yeah, check that out. Rock Hudson playing a heterosexual playboy, which is quite some acting. So yeah, cool. Anybody got anything else?
Nope, that's about it.
I can keep talking about the book.
Cool. Well, thanks everybody for joining us, and thank you for listening. And we will see you later. Bye.
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 Thank you for joining us. Please rate us on whatever service you listen on. And remember, at least we're not cinema queens.